I wasn't supposed to die that night. I was a cardiologist. For 17 years, I'd spent my life saving hearts, restarting them, repairing them, prolonging the inevitable. I understood the human body better than most. I knew exactly what happened when oxygen stopped flowing to the brain. I knew the clinical definition of death. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that there was nothing beyond it. Death was the end. A biological shutdown. Neurons firing their last desperate signals before eternal darkness. That's what I believed. That's what I taught medical students every Thursday morning at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. I wasn't always this way. I grew up in a small Presbyterian church in rural Pennsylvania, sitting between my mother and father every Sunday, singing hymns I'd memorized before I could read. My mother's voice, soft and steady, would carry me through Amazing Grace and How Great Thou Art. She had this way of closing her eyes when she sang, like she was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere beautiful. Somewhere I couldn't see. When I was 23, in my second year of medical school, she collapsed during a Wednesday prayer meeting. Massive stroke. I watched her brain scans with my professors, learning in real time that my mother, the woman who'd prayed over every meal, every test, every heartbreak, was already gone. Her body breathed. For 6 more days on a ventilator, but the woman I knew had vanished. I prayed that week. I begged. I made bargains with a God I was starting to doubt. Take my career. Take my future. Just let her wake up. Just one more conversation. Just let her know I love her. Silence. She died on a Sunday morning. The irony wasn't lost on me. I stopped praying that day. I didn't make some dramatic declaration or burn my Bible. I just stopped. Faith became a childhood myth I'd outgrown, like Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy. I threw myself into medicine with the fury of someone trying to prove something, maybe to God, maybe to myself. If divine intervention didn't exist, then I would be the intervention. I would master the heart. I would defeat death. For 17 years, I did exactly that. I became one of the top interventional cardiologists in Chicago. I published papers. I taught. I saved lives. And every time I restarted a heart, every time I brought someone back from the edge, I felt a grim satisfaction. See? No miracles needed. Just science. Just me. My wife, Jennifer, stayed Christian. We'd married young, before my mother's death, and she never stopped believing. She'd wake early on Sundays, dress our 2 daughters Emma and Grace in their church clothes, and ask quietly, "You coming today?" "Not today," I'd say. Every week. The same question. The same answer. "The girls ask about you," she'd whisper sometimes, sadness pooling in her eyes. "Tell them Daddy's working," I'd reply, hiding behind my pager, my on-call schedule, my importance. But the truth was darker than busyness. I resented her faith. I resented the hope in her eyes when she prayed over dinner. I resented that she still believed in a God who'd let my mother die, who let children get cancer, who stood by while the world tore itself apart. Her faith felt like a betrayal of reality. And slowly, year by year, that resentment built a wall between us. By the time I was 40, I'd become everything I'd wanted: successful, respected, published, in control. And completely hollow. November 8, 2023. 10:34 p.m. I was finishing rounds in the ICU when I felt it, a strange flutter in my chest. Not pain. Just wrong. I stopped mid-sentence while talking to a resident about a patient's post-op care. "Dr. Mercer? You okay?" The resident, young guy named Kevin, looked concerned. "Yeah, just tired," I lied. But I wasn't tired. My left arm was tingling. My jaw ached. And suddenly, I couldn't catch my breath. Oh. This is it. The irony hit me before the pain did. The cardiologist was having a heart attack. I managed to say, "Call a code," before my knees buckled. I remember hitting the floor. I remember the cold linoleum against my cheek. I remember Kevin's voice, high-pitched and panicked. Code blue. ICU. Code blue. Then the pain arrived, crushing, like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed. Not squeezed. Crushed. Like my heart was being ground between stones. Faces appeared above me. Colleagues. Friends. Dr. Sarah Lim from Cardiology. Dr. Patel from the ER. Nurses whose names I'd known for years but suddenly couldn't remember. Get him on the gurney. Start in 4, push 1 of AP. Get the crash cart. I tried to speak, tried to tell them I knew the protocol, tried to say something to Jennifer or my girls, but nothing came out. Just a wet, choking sound. And then, the strangest thing. I was above them. Not near them. Above them. I was floating near the ceiling, looking down at my own body on the gurney. My face was gray. My mouth hung open. My eyes had rolled back, showing only whites. That's me, I thought, oddly calm. That's my body. But I wasn't in it anymore. I watched Sarah cut open my shirt, the blue one Jennifer had bought me for my birthday. I watched them attach the EKG leads to my chest. I saw the monitor behind them, a jagged, chaotic line. Ventricular fibrillation. My heart was quivering uselessly, pumping nothing. Charge to 200. Sarah's voice. Clear. My body convulsed. The line stayed chaotic. Again. 300. Clear. Another jolt. Nothing. I should have been terrified. But I felt detached. Curious, almost. Like I was watching a medical drama on TV, not my own death. Then I noticed details I shouldn't have noticed. There was a coffee stain on the ceiling tile directly above the gurney, shaped almost exactly like the state of Florida. I'd worked in this ICU for 12 years and never noticed it. I saw Nurse Rodriguez standing in the corner, arms crossed, whispering to Dr. Patel, "How long's he been down?" 3 minutes, Patel said quietly. Maybe 4. I heard everything. Every word. Every sound. Kevin, the resident, was crying. Actually crying. He stood against the wall, hands shaking. And then I saw the clock on the wall, 10:47 p.m. Sarah injected something directly into my chest, epinephrine, I knew, and I watched the needle pierce my sternum. I felt nothing. "Come on, David!" Sarah shouted at my body. "Don't you dare die on me." Clear. 360 joules this time. Maximum. My body arched violently off the gurney. The line went flat. A single, sustained tone filled the room. Beep. Flatline. And that's when I realized I wasn't above the gurney anymore. I was moving. Being pulled. Backward. Upward. Away. I turned. How was I turning? I had no body, and saw the ICU shrinking below me. I passed through the ceiling like it wasn't there. Through floors. Through the roof. Chicago sprawled beneath me, lights, streets, Lake Michigan shimmering black in the distance. And then I saw it. The tunnel. Not a metaphor. Not a hallucination. A tunnel dark at first, then illuminated by something ahead. Something pulling me forward with irresistible force. I tried to fight it. Tried to go back. Tried to scream Jennifer's name, Emma's name, Grace's name. But I had no voice. I had no body. I had only awareness, terrible, absolute awareness, that my life on earth was over. My last thought before the tunnel consumed me was this. I was wrong. The tunnel wasn't like anything I'd read about in the medical literature on near-death experiences. I'd studied those cases, of course. Dismissed them. Hypoxia, I'd explained to students. The brain releases DMT when it's dying, a natural hallucinogen. The white light is just neurons misfiring. The life review is memory centers dumping their contents. All of it, every bit of mystical nonsense, could be explained by neurochemistry. But this wasn't a chemical hallucination. This was real, more real than anything I'd ever experienced in my body. I was moving fast now, accelerating through darkness that somehow wasn't empty. The tunnel walls, if they were walls, seemed alive, pulsing with something I couldn't name. Not light exactly. Not sound. Something between the two. And I was aware of everything happening behind me. I could still see the ICU, though I was no longer above it. It's impossible to explain, but I had this 360-degree awareness, like I could see in all directions simultaneously without turning. I was in the tunnel, moving forward, but I could still perceive what was happening to my body. Sarah was still working on me. How long? Dr. Patel's voice, tight with stress. 7 minutes, someone answered. A nurse, Maria, I think. I saw the green coffee stain on her scrubs, just below her left shoulder. Shaped like a kidney bean. 7 minutes without oxygen. 7 minutes without a heartbeat. My brain should have been dying. Cells rupturing. Neurons dissolving into permanent damage. But I was still here. Still aware. Still, myself. Dr. Lim, we should call it, Patel said quietly. He's gone. No, Sarah's voice was steel. One more round. Push another AP. I watched Maria inject epinephrine into my foreline. I watched the clear liquid flow through the tubing into my lifeless arm. Charging to 360. Clear. The shock made my body jump like a puppet with cut strings. The line stayed flat. Beep. Kevin, the resident, had his hand over his mouth, staring at my gray face. His lips moved silently. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? It wasn't his fault. I wanted to tell him that. Wanted to reach out but I had no hands. I looked down, if down meant anything anymore, and saw nothing. No body. No form. Just awareness. Consciousness without container. I existed, but I had nothing to exist in. Terror hit me then. Real terror. What am I? The pull intensified, yanking me deeper into the tunnel, and suddenly I wasn't watching the ICU anymore. I was somewhere else entirely, but still present there, somehow, impossible as that sounds. I was in the hospital chapel. Jennifer was there. Someone must have called her, probably Sarah. My wife sat in the front pew, hunched forward, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. She was praying. Actually praying. Please God, she whispered, voice breaking. Please. Not like this. Not with so much left unsaid. Please let him come back. Please give us one more chance. I don't care if he never believes, just let him live. Let him meet his daughters at the altar someday. Let him hold grandchildren. Please. Please. Her shoulders shook with sobs. I tried to go to her. Tried to say, Jennifer, I'm here. I'm right here. But I couldn't stop moving. The tunnel was dragging me forward, relentless, and her image faded like smoke. Then I saw Emma and Grace. They were at home, our house in Evanston, the one with the blue door and the maple tree in the front yard. They were still awake, though it was past 11 now. Emma, 14, sat on her bed in her pajamas, holding her phone. Grace, 11, sat beside her. Mom's not answering, Emma said, staring at her screen. Why did she leave so fast? Grace's voice was small, frightened. She didn't even say where she was going. I don't know. Emma, do you think Daddy's okay? Emma set down her phone and put her arm around her little sister. I saw her chin tremble. Saw her fight back tears. Saw her lie, he's fine. Mom probably just forgot something at the hospital. But she was crying when she left. Grace, it's fine. Dad's always fine. But Emma didn't believe it. I could see it in her eyes, the same eyes I'd looked into her whole life, the same deep brown as my mother's. She was terrified. And I couldn't hold her. Couldn't tell her I loved her. Couldn't be the father I should have been. How many school plays had I missed? How many bedtimes? How many moments had I chosen work over them, patient notes over their stories, career over presence? I'd waste my whole life, I realized. Not on saving others. On running. On hiding behind medicine so I wouldn't have to feel the gaping hole my mother's death had left. So I wouldn't have to face a God I blamed for everything. The tunnel pulled harder now, and my daughters disappeared. I was moving faster. The darkness around me was changing, getting thicker, heavier. And I realized with mounting horror that I wasn't moving up. I was moving down. No, I tried to say. No, wait. There's been a mistake. But I had no voice. No mouth. Nothing but consciousness hurtling through darkness that pressed in from all sides. And then I heard it. A sound from behind me, from the direction of the hospital, my body, the life I'd left. A voice. Sarah's voice. One more time. Charging. Clear. I felt something, not pain, but a sensation like a rubber band stretched to breaking. A connection between me and my body, thinner than thread, still holding by a fiber. The shock hit my chest, and the rubber band yanked me backward. For a split second, I stopped moving down. The tunnel held me suspended between two forces, the pull toward whatever waited below, and the pull back toward life. Back in the ICU, the monitor flickered. Beep. A single spike on the flatline. Then flat again. Again. Sarah screamed. Now. Another shock. Beep. Beep. 2 spikes. The tunnel shuddered around me, like reality itself was fracturing. The darkness pulsed, angry, refusing to let go. We've got a rhythm. Weak, but it's there. Push atropine. The rubber band pulled harder. I could feel myself being dragged in 2 directions, back toward life, and forward toward, what? Where had I been going? What waited at the end of this tunnel? And that's when I heard the other voice. Not Sarah's. Not human. A voice that came from the darkness itself, cold and vast. You are mine. You denied him. You rejected him. You are mine. Terror unlike anything I'd known flooded through me. Not the fear of dying, I was already dead. This was deeper. Primal. The fear of being lost. Of being separated from everything good and light and beautiful forever. Of facing eternity as I truly was, empty, hollow, unforgiven. No, I tried to scream. Please, no. I was wrong. I was wrong. The darkness laughed, not with humor, but with satisfaction. The sound of a predator that's cornered its prey. Too late. The rubber band was fraying. I could feel it. One more second and it would snap, and I would fall into whatever hell waited below, and there would be no coming back. And in that moment, in the space between eternal damnation and life, I did something I hadn't done in 17 years. I prayed. Not eloquently. Not theologically. Just 3 words, screamed from the core of whatever I was. Jesus, help me. And everything stopped. The tunnel. The pulling. The darkness. The voice. Everything went silent. And then light. Not from ahead. Not from behind. From everywhere. Brilliant, piercing, impossible light that should have burned but instead felt like cool water after days in a desert. The darkness shattered like glass, and the light poured through the cracks, drowning everything, drowning me, until there was nothing but white and warmth and something I'd forgotten existed. Love. Pure, undiluted, overwhelming love. And a voice different from the dark one, opposite in every way, spoke my name. Not Dr. Mercer. Not David. My real name. The one I'd never heard spoken aloud but recognized instantly, the way you recognize your own reflection. The voice said, Not yet. I'm not finished with you. The tunnel collapsed. The light exploded. And I was flying back the way I'd come, through floors and walls and ceiling, through the roof of Northwestern Memorial, down through the ICU ceiling. Straight into my chest. I didn't return to my body. Not yet. The light that had shattered the darkness didn't send me back to the ICU, to the flatline, to Sarah's desperate attempts to restart my heart. Instead, it held me suspended between death and life, between earth and eternity, between the man I'd been and whatever I was becoming. I was still in the tunnel, but it had transformed completely. The oppressive darkness was gone. The downward pull had vanished. Now the tunnel was filled with light, soft, golden, alive. The walls, if they were walls, shimmered like mother of pearl, reflecting colors that shouldn't exist. Not brighter versions of red or blue or green, but new colors, colors my earthly mind had no names for, colors that made my soul ache with something between joy and longing. I was moving again, but gently now. Not being dragged or pulled, but drawn like a magnet calling to iron, like a child being called home by a parent's voice. And I wasn't alone. There were others in the tunnel with me. Not bodies, none of us had bodies, but presences. Beings of light, moving in the same direction I was moving. Some stayed near me. Others passed by, moving faster, eager. One presence drew close, so close I could feel something like warmth radiating from it. And then I heard a voice I'd spent 17 years trying to forget. David. My mother. I can't explain how I knew it was her. I had no eyes to see her face, no ears to hear her voice, and yet I knew with absolute certainty that my mother was there beside me, more real and present than she'd been even when she was alive. Mom? I tried to say, but I still had no mouth, no voice. Yet somehow she heard me. Somehow, in that place, thoughts were language. Oh, sweetheart, she said, and her voice was exactly as I remembered, gentle, warm, tinged with the Pennsylvania accent she'd never quite lost. I've been waiting for you to call his name. I don't understand, I thought spoke back. What's happening? Where am I? Am I dead? You were dying, she said. But you cried out to Jesus. And he heard you. He always hears, David. He always has. Shame crashed over me like a wave, hot, suffocating shame. All the years I'd blamed God for her death. All the years I'd lived as though he didn't exist. All the prayers I'd mocked, all the faith I'd dismissed, all the Sundays I'd chosen my own pride over worship. I'm sorry, I thought, and the words felt pathetically inadequate. Mom, I'm so sorry. I blamed him. I blamed him for losing you, and I turned my back on everything you believed, and I wasted so much time. Shoo, she interrupted, and I felt something like a hand touching my face if I'd had a face. David, listen to me. You haven't wasted anything. Every patient you saved, every heart you restarted, every life you extended, you were doing his work even when you didn't believe in him. He was with you in every surgery, every emergency room, every moment you thought you were alone. He never left you, sweetheart. You left him. And even then, he stayed. The light around us grew brighter, and I realized we were moving faster now, ascending through the tunnel toward something ahead. Something that filled me with equal parts anticipation and terror. Where are we going? I asked. My mother's presence seemed to smile. I don't know how I knew that, but I did. You'll see. But David, before you arrive, there's something you need to understand. What? You're going to see your life. All of it. Every moment. Every choice. Every word. And you're going to see it the way he sees it, not just what you did, but why you did it, and what it caused. The ripples you created. Some of those ripples became waves. Some became tsunamis. You need to be ready for that. Fear spiked through me. I don't want to see it. Mom, if I see everything I've done, everything I've failed to do. You have to, she said gently. Everyone does. But David, you need to understand something. He's not showing you to condemn you. He's showing you to free you. You've been carrying guilt and bitterness for 17 years. You've been running from him because you thought he took me from you. But sweetheart, he didn't take me. Death is what took me. Death is what takes everyone. But Jesus defeated death. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here. And that's what he's going to show you. Before I could respond, the tunnel opened. Not gradually. Not like walking through a doorway. It opened like reality itself was torn apart and something infinite poured through. Light. Impossible light. Not the soft golden glow of the tunnel, but brilliant, blazing, white-hot light that should have incinerated me but instead felt like being known. Completely, utterly, devastatingly known. And in the center of that light, I saw a figure. A man. No, not just a man. The man. The one every other person who'd ever lived was just a shadow of. He stood there, and stood isn't the right word because he was beyond physical description, beyond form, and yet I could see him as clearly as I'd ever seen anything. He wore white robes that moved like water and light. His hair was dark, his skin the color of Middle Eastern sun, not the pale European Jesus from church paintings, but real, authentic, weathered by wind and suffering. His face was both young and ancient, beautiful and terrible, fierce and gentle all at once. But it was his eyes that undid me. Brown. Deep brown. But not just brown, they held depth, infinite depth, like looking into eternity itself. Into galaxies and stars in time beyond time. When he looked at me, and he was looking at me, directly at me, into me, through me, I felt like every version of myself was visible simultaneously. The baby I'd been. The boy who'd sung hymns beside his mother. The medical student who'd raged at God. The cardiologist who'd played God. The husband who'd built walls. The father who'd chosen work over presence. He saw all of it. All of me. Every secret, every sin, every shame. And he didn't look away. David, he said, and his voice was like nothing I can describe. Thunder and whisper. Firmness and tenderness. Authority and intimacy. When he spoke my name, it was the first time I'd ever truly heard it. The first time I understood what my name actually meant. Beloved. I wanted to run. Wanted to hide. Wanted to cover myself somehow, though I had no body to cover. I'm sorry, I said, or thought, or was. In his presence, there was no difference. I'm so sorry. I denied you. I lived like you didn't exist. I blamed you for everything and never thanked you for anything. I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve. He raised his hand, and I stopped. Not because he commanded it, but because I couldn't speak. Couldn't think. Could only stare at his hand. There was a scar in his palm. Not healed over. Not faded. Present. Visible. Deliberate. A nail scar. Come here, he said. I moved toward him, not by will, but by pull. The same pull I'd felt in the tunnel, but stronger now, irresistible. He reached out and took my hand, and I had a hand. Somehow, in his presence, I had form again. Not my old body, but something else. Something that could touch and be touched. He placed my fingers on the scar in his palm. I felt it. The rough, raised edges. The hole that had been driven through flesh and bone. The wound that should have healed 2,000 years ago but he'd chosen to keep. This is for you, he said quietly, holding my gaze. I did this for you, David. Before you were born. Before you rejected me. Before you blamed me. I knew every moment of your life, every choice you would make, every wall you would build. And I went to the cross anyway. Because I love you. Because you are worth it. Because I would rather die than spend eternity without you. Tears came then, somehow, impossibly, I was crying. Sobbing. Not from sadness, but from the sheer weight of being loved like that. Completely. Unconditionally. Devastatingly. I don't understand, I choked out. How can you love me? I turned my back on you. I denied you to my students, my patients, my own family. How can you? Because that's who I am, he said, and he pulled me into an embrace. I can't describe it. There are no words in any language for what it feels like to be held by Jesus. Every wound I'd ever carried, my mother's death, my father's silence after she died, my broken marriage, my absent fathering, my decades of emptiness, all of it was touched in that moment. Not healed instantly, but seen. Acknowledged. Carried by someone strong enough to bear it. I never left you, he whispered against my head if I had a head. When your mother died, I wept with you. When you cursed my name, I stayed beside you. When you saved your patients, I guided your hands. When you ignored your daughters, I hurt with them. I have been with you every moment of your life, David. Every single moment. And I will never, ever leave you. We stood there, if stood means anything in eternity, and I felt 17 years of ice begin to crack and melt. Finally, he pulled back and looked at me again. His expression had changed. Still love, still infinite compassion, but something else now. Something more serious. David, he said, there is something you must see. Something you must understand before I send you back. Back? My heart, if I had a heart, leaped. You're sending me back? Yes. Your work on earth is not finished. But first, you need to see what your life has been. And what it could have been. He gestured, and the light around us shifted. And then I saw it. My entire life, spread out before me like a tapestry. Every moment, every choice, every consequence. And Jesus stood beside me, ready to walk me through it all. Are you ready? He asked gently. I thought of the cardiologist who'd played God. The husband who'd built walls. The father who'd chosen pride over presence. The atheist who'd denied his existence. No, I admitted. I'm not ready. He smiled, sad, but understanding. No one ever is. But I'll be with you. That's what matters. He took my hand again. And together, we stepped into my life. The light shifted, and suddenly we weren't standing in that brilliant, overwhelming presence anymore. We were standing in my life. Not watching it like a movie. Not observing from a distance. I was in it, reliving it, experiencing it, but with Jesus beside me and with an awareness I'd never had the first time. The first memory he showed me was one I'd buried so deeply I'd almost convinced myself it never happened. I was 16 years old, standing in the hallway of my high school in Pennsylvania. It was between classes, lockers slamming, students rushing past, the chaos of teenage life. I was leaning against my locker, talking to my friends, laughing about something I couldn't even remember now. And then I saw her. Rebecca Walsh. She was new that year, transferred from another school. Quiet. Awkward. She wore the same 3 outfits in rotation because her family didn't have money. Kids whispered about her. Made jokes. But she had this way of sitting in the back of every class, drawing in a notebook, lost in her own world. In this memory, she was walking down the hallway toward me. Our eyes met. She smiled, small, hesitant, hopeful. And she stopped. Hey, David, she said quietly. I remembered this moment now, watching it unfold. I remembered what I'd been about to do. My youth group is doing this thing on Friday, she continued, clutching her books to her chest. It's like a bonfire and worship night. I know you go to church with your mom sometimes, and I thought, maybe you'd want to come? It could be fun. My friends were watching. Grinning. Waiting to see what I'd do. I felt the weight of their expectations. The need to be cool. To be funny. To not be associated with the weird religious girl. So I laughed. Not a kind laugh. A dismissive one. Yeah, I'm good, I said. I don't really do the whole church thing anymore. But thanks. I turned back to my friends, and they laughed too. One of them made a joke about snake handlers or speaking in tongues, something cruel I didn't stop. Rebecca's face fell. I saw it for just a second before she turned and walked away quickly, clutching her books tighter. I'd forgotten about it 10 minutes later. But Jesus didn't let me forget now. The scene paused, and he turned to me. Do you remember what happened to Rebecca after that? He asked quietly. No, I admitted, shame burning through me. Watch, he said. The scene shifted. I saw Rebecca in the girls' bathroom, locked in a stall, crying silently. I heard her thoughts, somehow I could hear them, feel them, experience them as though they were my own. Nobody wants me here. I don't fit. Even the Christian kids don't want me. Maybe God doesn't want me either. No, I whispered, watching her. Jesus, no. She needed a friend that day, he said, his voice heavy with sorrow. She needed someone to see her. To choose her. You could have been that person, David. Instead, you chose your reputation. The scene shifted again. Rebecca, 3 years later, sitting in a college dorm room, staring at a bottle of pills. Jesus, please, I don't want to see this. She didn't take them, he said quickly, mercifully. But she came very close. She struggled with depression for years, David. Fought thoughts of suicide. Felt invisible and unwanted. And part of that, not all, but part, started with moments like yours. Small rejections that became big wounds. I wanted to collapse. Wanted to scream. I didn't know. I was just a kid. I didn't mean. I know, Jesus said, and his hand was on my shoulder, steady and warm. You didn't mean to hurt her. You were 16 and insecure and trying to fit in. But David, this is what I need you to understand, every moment matters. Every word matters. Every choice sends ripples into eternity. You cannot see them from earth, but they exist. They're real. What happened to her? I asked desperately. Is she okay now? Jesus smiled, small, but genuine. She is. She found me eventually, truly found me, and she's been serving me faithfully ever since. She's a counselor now, helping teenagers who feel invisible and unwanted. She turned her pain into purpose. But David, it didn't have to be that painful. If you'd said yes that day, if you'd gone to that bonfire, you would have found me years earlier than you did. And you would have been part of her healing instead of her hurting. The weight of it crushed me. The scene shifted again. Now I was 28, 3 years into my marriage with Jennifer. We were sitting at our kitchen table, the apartment in Chicago, the one with the broken dishwasher and the view of the alley. Jennifer was crying, her face blotchy and red. You're never here, she was saying, voice breaking. Even when you're home, you're not here. You're thinking about work, about patients, about everything except me. I watched myself, cold, defensive, arms crossed. I'm building a career, Jen. I'm sorry if that's not romantic enough for you, but someone has to pay the bills. I'm not talking about money, she shouted, and Jennifer never shouted. I'm talking about us. About our marriage. I feel like I'm married to a ghost. That's dramatic. It's true. Tears streamed down her face. I've been trying to tell you for months, I think I'm depressed. I think I need help. And you won't even look at me long enough to notice. I watched my younger self stand up, grab his coat. I have a shift in an hour. We'll talk about this later. We never talk about it later, she whispered. The door slammed. Jesus paused the scene. She was drowning, David, he said quietly. And you didn't even see it. I know, I choked out. I know. I was a terrible husband. I chose work over her every single time. But look, he interrupted, and the scene fast-forwarded. I saw Jennifer, alone in that apartment, kneeling beside the bed. She was praying. God, she whispered, I don't know what to do. I love him so much, but he won't let me in. He's so angry at you, and I don't know how to help him. Please. Please don't let our marriage die. Please soften his heart. I'm begging you. She prayed for 20 minutes. Specific prayers. Desperate prayers. Prayers that mentioned me by name, lifted up my pain, my bitterness, my mother's death. And then she stood up, wiped her eyes, and went to make dinner. She did this 3 times a week for 10 years. I never knew. She never stopped praying for you, Jesus said, his voice thick with emotion. Even when you ignored her. Even when you chose work over her, pride over intimacy, silence over communication. She prayed. And David, I heard every single prayer. I collected every single tear. And I was working, slowly, patiently, to answer them. You thought you walked away from me when your mother died. But your wife built a bridge back to me with her prayers. She never gave up on you. And neither did I. I was weeping now, fully, uncontrollably. I don't deserve her, I said. No, Jesus agreed gently. You don't. But that's what grace is. Receiving what you don't deserve because someone loves you anyway. The scene shifted again, faster now. I saw Emma, age 7, standing in the doorway of my home office. I was hunched over my laptop, reviewing patient charts. Daddy, she said quietly. Not now, sweetheart. Daddy's working. But, it's my birthday. I looked up, briefly, impatiently. I know, honey. We'll celebrate this weekend, okay? But my party's today. Right now. Everyone's here. Emma, I have a patient in critical condition. I can't just leave. Mommy will take pictures, okay? Her little face crumpled. She didn't cry. She just nodded and left. The scene shifted to the living room. Jennifer was lighting candles on a pink cake. Emma sat at the head of the table, wearing a party hat, surrounded by 7-year-olds. But her eyes kept drifting to the hallway, waiting for me to come out. I never did. She stopped expecting you after that, Jesus said quietly. She learned not to hope you'd show up. And David, that's a lesson no child should have to learn about their father. I can't watch anymore, I begged. Please. I can't. One more, he said firmly. You need to see this. The scene shifted to Grace, age 9. She was in her bedroom, door closed, sitting on her bed with a journal. She was writing, Dear God, I know Daddy doesn't believe in you. Mommy says it's because he's sad about his mommy dying. But I believe in you. And I pray every night that Daddy will believe again. I love him so much. Please help him. Love, Grace. She closed the journal, climbed under her covers, and prayed a child's prayer, simple and pure, God, please help Daddy's heart not be sad anymore. Amen. Jesus knelt beside the bed, and I realized he'd been there that night. Actually there, invisible but present, listening to my daughter pray for me. He'd kissed her forehead before she fell asleep. And he'd wept. I watched him weep for my daughter. For me. For the brokenness I'd caused. Your children have been praying for you for years, Jesus said, standing now, looking at me with eyes full of love and sorrow. They've been building bridges back to me with their prayers, just like Jennifer. And David, I never stopped listening. I never stopped working. Even when you denied I existed, I was orchestrating circumstances, putting people in your path, softening your heart degree by degree. Because I love you. And I love them. And I want your family whole. The scenes faded, and we stood in the brilliant light again. I collapsed to my knees if I had knees. I wasted everything, I sobbed. 17 years. My marriage. My daughter's childhoods. Rebecca's friendship. I wasted all of it running from you. Jesus knelt beside me, the King of the universe knelt beside me, and lifted my face. You wasted nothing, he said firmly. Yes, you made wrong choices. Yes, you hurt people. Yes, you ran from me. But David, listen, I am the God who redeems. I take broken things and make them beautiful. I take wasted years and restore them. Your story isn't over. Your family's story isn't over. There is still time. That's why I'm sending you back. Back? I looked up at him, hope and terror warring in my chest. Yes. He stood, pulling me to my feet. You're going back to your body. Back to your life. But not as the man who died. As the man I'm calling you to be. You will tell your story. You will tell people about me, not the distant God of religion, but the present God who loved you through your rejection. Who answered prayers you didn't even pray. Who fought for you even when you fought against him. He placed both hands on my shoulders. David, your mother's death was not my punishment. It was not my will. It was the result of living in a fallen, broken world where death exists because sin exists. But I defeated death. I defeated sin. And one day soon, there will be no more death, no more tears, no more pain. Your mother is waiting for that day. And she's waiting for you. But not yet. What do I do? I asked desperately. How do I fix everything I've broken? One moment at a time, he said. One conversation at a time. One choice at a time. You go back, and you tell Jennifer you're sorry. You hold your daughters and you tell them you love them. You stop running from me and start running toward me. And David, you tell people what you saw here. You tell them I'm real. That heaven is real. That I love them. That there's still time. He pulled me into one more embrace and I memorized it. The warmth. The strength. The absolute safety of being held by love himself. I'm sending you back now, he whispered. But remember, I am with you always. Until the end of the age. And beyond. Will I see you again? I asked, pulling back. He smiled, full, radiant, beautiful. Oh yes, he said. When your work is done, I'll be right here waiting. And next time, you won't have to leave. He touched my chest right over my heart. And the light exploded. I gasped a horrible, rattling, desperate gasp and my eyes flew open. Fluorescent lights. White ceiling. The steady beep of a heart monitor. Pain. Crushing, burning pain in my chest. Faces hovering over me. Sarah. Dr. Patel. Maria. He's back. Sarah shouted. David. Can you hear me? I tried to speak, but my throat was raw intubation tube, I realized distantly. They'd intubated me. Sarah leaned close, tears streaming down her face. You were gone for 12 minutes. 12 minutes, David. No heartbeat. Minimal brain activity. You should be brain dead. But you're back. I grabbed her wrist with whatever strength I had left. Jesus, I croaked. She blinked. What? I saw. Jesus. The room went silent. And I knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same. The ICU was chaos around me, but I barely noticed. Nurses adjusting IVs. Doctors checking monitors. Sarah barking orders about labs and EKGs and cardiac enzymes. Someone was calling for a portable chest X-ray. The machinery of modern medicine churned around my broken body, doing what it did best, measuring, analyzing, treating. But none of it mattered. Because I wasn't fully back yet. I was in two places at once, lying on that hospital bed with tubes and wires connecting me to machines, and still standing in that brilliant light with Jesus, feeling the weight of his hands on my shoulders, hearing his voice echo through every cell of my being. You're going back. But first, you need to understand something. The hospital room faded. Or maybe I faded from it. Either way, I was suddenly standing with Jesus again, but this time we weren't in the blinding white light. We were standing in a place that defied every law of physics I'd ever learned. It was a garden. But calling it a garden is like calling the ocean a puddle. The grass beneath my feet, and I had feet now, a body that felt more real than my earthly one ever had, was emerald green, each blade perfectly formed and somehow alive in a way grass on earth never was. Not just growing. living, conscious, worshipping. I could hear it, a low, harmonious hum that rose from the ground itself, joining with the sound of water and wind and something else I couldn't name. Trees surrounded us, trees unlike anything on earth. Their trunks were silver and gold, their leaves shimmered with colors I still can't describe. Not enhanced versions of earthly colors, but completely new ones, colors that existed outside the spectrum my human eyes had been designed to see. Some were warm like fire but not red. Some were cool like water but not blue. They just were. And they were singing too. Everything here was singing. The air itself tasted like joy. Like laughter. Like every good memory I'd ever had distilled into a single breath. It was sweeter than honey, cleaner than mountain water, and it filled my lungs with something that felt like pure life. A river ran through the center of the garden, crystal clear, but it glowed from within, lit by something other than sunlight. I could see straight to the bottom, and the stones there were gemstones. Sapphires. Emeralds. Rubies. Diamonds. But they weren't just reflecting light, they were generating it, pulsing with radiance that made the whole river shimmer. And the sky. Oh, the sky. There was no sun, not like Earth's sun, but there was light everywhere, coming from everywhere, warm and perfect. The sky shifted between colors, moving like the northern lights but more purposeful, more intentional. And I realized I could hear it too. The sky was singing. Everything here sang. This, Jesus said beside me, gesturing to the garden, is a small corner of my Father's house. A taste of what I'm preparing for those who love me. I turned to look at him, and for the first time, I really saw him. In the brilliant white light, he'd been almost too much to perceive, overwhelming, infinite, impossible to fully comprehend. But here, in this garden, he was present. Tangible. Fully God and fully human simultaneously. His face was Middle Eastern, not the pale, European Jesus from paintings and stained glass windows. His skin was olive brown, weathered by sun and wind and 33 years of walking dusty roads. His hair was dark brown, almost black, falling to his shoulders in waves. His beard was full and well-kept. His features were strong, a carpenter's face, a laborer's face, marked by work and suffering. But his eyes. I'd seen them before, in that first moment, but now I could study them without being undone. They were deep brown, almost black, but they held depth. Infinite depth. When I looked into them, I saw layers upon layers. I saw eternity. I saw galaxies spinning in the darkness. I saw time collapsing, past, present, and future existing simultaneously. I saw every person who'd ever lived, every prayer ever prayed, every tear ever cried, all of it held within his gaze. And when he looked at me, I felt like he was seeing every version of me at once. The baby I'd been. The boy who'd loved his mother. The teenager who'd rejected Rebecca. The medical student who'd watched his mother die. The cardiologist who'd played God. The husband who'd built walls. The father who'd missed birthdays. The atheist who'd denied his existence. The dying man who'd cried out his name. He saw all of it. Held all of it. Loved all of it. David, he said, and his voice was different here. Not the thunder and whisper voice that had shattered the darkness. Here it was gentle, intimate, like we were old friends sitting together. But it still carried weight. Authority. Creation itself responded when he spoke. The grass bent slightly toward him. The trees leaned in. The river's song harmonized with his words. Lord, I said, and my voice broke. Just calling him that, acknowledging him as Lord after 17 years of denial, shattered something in my chest. Lord, I don't understand. Why am I here? Why did you save me from where I was going? His expression shifted, pain flickering across his features. You know where you were going. Yes. I couldn't lie to him. Didn't want to. I was going to hell. That voice in the darkness, it said I was its. Because I denied you. You were denying me, Jesus said quietly. For 17 years. And yes, David, if you had died in that moment, before you called my name, you would have been eternally separated from me. Not because I wanted that, but because you chose it. Every day for 17 years, you chose it. The weight of that truth crushed me. But I called your name. At the last second, I called for you. And I heard you. He stepped closer, and I saw them clearly now, the scars. Not just in his hands, but in his feet. In his side, partially hidden by his white robe. He'd kept them all. Visible. Intentional. I will always hear when someone calls my name. No matter how long they've denied me. No matter how far they've run. No matter how close to hell they've come. If they call my name, truly call it, from the depth of their soul, I will answer. Why? The question burst out of me. Why would you answer me? After everything I said about you, everything I taught against you, every time I chose myself over you, why? Jesus held out his hand, palm up. The nail scar was there, a whole, ragged-edged, deliberate. Touch it again, he said. I reached out with trembling fingers and placed them on the scar. The raised edges. The depth of the wound. The mark of a Roman nail driven through flesh and bone and tendon. I did this for you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. 2,000 years before you were born. I knew every moment of your life, David. I knew you'd lose your mother at 23. I knew you'd blame me. I knew you'd spend 17 years running from me, building walls, playing God in operating rooms because you were too angry to worship the real God. I knew you'd hurt Jennifer. Ignore Emma and Grace. Deny my existence to anyone who'd listen. Tears streamed down my face. Then why? If you knew all that, why did you still? Because I love you. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the universe. I looked ahead through time and saw you, saw all your pain, all your rebellion, all your brokenness, and I said, he's worth it. David Mercer is worth dying for. And I meant it. I would do it again, David. If you were the only person who ever lived, I would still go to that cross. I would still let them drive the nails. I would still suffocate under the weight of every sin you ever committed. Because you are worth it to me. I collapsed, literally fell to my knees in that perfect grass and sobbed. Not polite tears. Not quiet weeping. I wailed. 17 years of grief, bitterness, anger, and emptiness poured out of me in great, gasping sobs. Every wall I'd built came crashing down. Every defense I'd constructed shattered. I was completely, utterly undone. And Jesus knelt beside me. The King of the universe. The Creator of galaxies. The Alpha and Omega. He knelt in the grass beside a broken cardiologist who denied him for 17 years, and he pulled me into his arms. I felt his chest against my head. Felt his arms around my back. Felt his breath on my hair. And I felt his scars. The nail wounds in his hands pressed against my back. The spear wound in his side touched my shoulder. He'd kept them. Chosen to keep them. Not as reminders of his suffering, but as proof of his love. I'm so sorry, I choked out. Jesus, I'm so sorry. For everything. For all of it. I wasted so much time. Shoo, he whispered, holding me tighter. David, listen to me. You did waste time. You did hurt people. You did run from me. But I am the God of redemption. I specialize in taking broken things and making them beautiful. Your story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. He pulled back slightly, keeping his hands on my shoulders, and looked into my eyes. David, I'm sending you back. But before I do, I need to show you some things. I need you to understand what's coming. And I need you to carry a message back with you. Anything, I said desperately. I'll do anything. Come, he said, standing and pulling me to my feet. Walk with me. We walked together through the garden, and with each step, Jesus showed me things. Not just memories of my past like before, but visions. Glimpses of what was to come. He showed me Jennifer, kneeling beside our bed 3 days from now, praying the same prayer she'd prayed for 10 years. But this time, I would walk in. I would kneel beside her. I would take her hand and say, "I'm sorry for everything. And I'm ready to come back to you, to God, to our family." He showed me her face when I said that, the shock, the hope, the tears. He let me see into her heart, feel her emotions, understand the depth of her love for me despite everything. He showed me Emma, now 14, sitting in her youth group 2 months from now. The pastor would give an altar call, and she'd be the first one forward, tears streaming down her face. "I want to give my life to Jesus," she'd say. And when they asked why now, she'd answer, "Because my dad died and came back, and he met Jesus. And if Jesus is real enough to save my dad, he's real enough for me." I watched her get baptized. Watched her grow into a young woman on fire for God. Watched her lead her friends to Jesus, one by one. He showed me Grace, age 11, bringing 3 of her classmates to church because my dad died and went to heaven and came back, and he said Jesus is real. I watched those 3 kids give their lives to Christ. Watched them grow up in the faith. Watched the ripple effects extend outward. Those 3 kids would eventually lead dozens more to Jesus. All because I came back with a testimony. Do you see? Jesus asked, pausing beside the crystal river. Do you see what happens when you say yes to me? When you stop running and start following? Your life becomes a stone thrown into water, David. The ripples never stop. They touch people you'll never meet. They extend into eternity. I see, I whispered, overwhelmed. But then his expression grew more serious. David, there's something else you need to know. Something you need to tell people when you return. What? He gestured, and the garden around us shifted. The beauty remained, but now I could see beyond it, could see Earth, spinning in the darkness of space. Could see cities and nations and people going about their lives, completely unaware of the spiritual battle raging around them. Time is short, Jesus said quietly. Shorter than most people realize. I am coming back soon, David. Not soon in human terms of decades or centuries. Soon. And most people, even most people who call themselves Christians, are not ready. He showed me churches, buildings full of people singing worship songs, raising hands, going through motions. But their hearts were cold. Distracted. They believed in God the way someone believes in gravity, acknowledging his existence but never really engaging with him. They know about me, Jesus said, grief thick in his voice. But they don't know me. They come to church once a week, check a box, live the rest of their lives however they want. They think a prayer they prayed once as a child is fire insurance. But David, relationship isn't a one-time transaction. It's daily. Moment by moment. I want their hearts, not their attendance records. He showed me atheists, people like I'd been. Scientists, doctors, intellectuals. People who'd convinced themselves that faith was for the weak, that God was a fairy tale, that death was the end. They're so close to hell, Jesus whispered, pain etched on his face. So close. And they have no idea. They think they have time. They think they'll figure it out eventually. But David, no one is guaranteed tomorrow. You know that better than anyone. He showed me people of other faiths, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, seeking God in all the wrong places. People who were sincere, who were searching, who wanted truth. But they'd been told lies. They'd been given counterfeits. I love them, Jesus said, and I heard his voice crack. I died for them too. Every single one. But they don't know me. They know religion. They know rules and rituals and philosophies. But they don't know me. And David, I am the way. Not a way. Not one path among many. I said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I meant it. There is no other name under heaven by which people can be saved. Only mine. The vision shifted again, and he showed me something that made my soul ache. Hell. Not the fire and brimstone of cartoons, though there was fire. But worse than the physical torment was the isolation. The absolute, crushing loneliness. People separated from God, from love, from hope, from everything good, forever. Conscious. Aware. Remembering every opportunity they had to choose Jesus and didn't. Surrounded by others but completely alone because love didn't exist there. Couldn't exist there. And the worst part? They'd chosen it. Every single person there had been given chances. Multiple chances. People who'd loved them. Believers who'd shared the gospel. Moments when the Holy Spirit had whispered to their hearts. But they'd said no. Again and again and again. Until their hearts had hardened completely. Until they crossed a line they didn't even know existed, and their eternal fate was sealed. I don't want anyone there, Jesus said, and he was weeping now. Actually weeping. Tears streamed down his face, God himself crying over the people who'd rejected him. I died to keep people out of that place. I paid the price for every sin ever committed so no one would have to go there. But I won't force anyone to love me. I won't drag people into heaven who don't want me. So they choose hell. And it breaks my heart. Every single time. He turned to me, gripping my shoulders. David, this is why I'm sending you back. You need to tell them. Tell the atheists that I'm real, that death isn't the end, that they need me. Tell the lukewarm Christians to wake up, to stop playing church and start living for me with everything they have. Tell people of other faiths that I love them, that I'm calling them, that I'm the one they've been searching for all along. Tell everyone that time is running out. That I'm coming back. That they need to choose today, right now, because tomorrow isn't promised. But what if they don't believe me? I asked desperately. What if they think I'm crazy or lying or hallucinating? Some will, he said honestly. Some will mock you. Some will reject you. Some will call you delusional. But David, some will believe. And those who believe will be saved. Isn't that worth the cost? Isn't one soul worth any amount of mockery? He was right. I knew he was right. There's one more thing, he said gently. One more thing I need to show you before you go back. He placed his hand over my heart, and suddenly I felt it, all of it. Every prayer ever prayed for me. Jennifer's desperate prayers at the kitchen table. Emma's childhood prayers for her daddy. Grace's simple God, please help Daddy's heart prayers. My mother's prayers before she died, Jesus, watch over my boy. Bring him back to you someday. Thousands of prayers. Tens of thousands. From people I knew and people I'd never met. From my family. From patients who'd recovered and later prayed for, Dr. Mercer who saved my life. From nurses I'd worked with. From strangers who'd heard about the atheist cardiologist and felt moved to pray. Every single prayer reached me, Jesus said. Not one fell to the ground unheard. I collected them. I answered them. Slowly, patiently, over 17 years, I was working. Orchestrating circumstances. Putting people in your path. Softening your heart degree by degree. And tonight, when your heart stopped, I was ready. Because the prayers had prepared the way. I was undone all over again. Now go, he said, smiling through his tears. Go back. Love your wife. Hold your daughters. Tell your story. Live for me. And when your work is done, when you've fulfilled everything I'm calling you to do, I'll be right here waiting. He pulled me into one last embrace, and I clung to him like a drowning man clings to a lifeline. I don't want to leave you, I whispered. You're not leaving me, he said. I'm going with you. I'll be with you every moment of every day until you return to me permanently. And David? That's a promise. He kissed my forehead and I felt it like a seal, like a brand, like a mark of ownership. You're mine now, he said. Forever. He touched my chest again. And the light exploded. I gasped a huge, desperate, life-giving gasp and my eyes flew open. The ICU. The monitors. The faces. But I wasn't the same man who'd died 12 minutes earlier. I was his. Finally, completely, eternally his. The first thing I felt was pain. Searing, crushing pain in my chest, like someone had reached inside my ribcage and squeezed my heart with a vice. Every breath was agony. Every heartbeat sent shockwaves of fire through my torso. But I was breathing. And my heart was beating. I was alive. The second thing I felt was the tube down my throat. The intubation tube scratched against my trachea with every breath the ventilator forced into my lungs. I gagged reflexively, panic flooding through me, hands flying up to grab at my face. "He's fighting the vent," someone shouted. "Maria, I think. Dr. Lim, he's awake." Sarah's face appeared above me, her eyes red-rimmed and wide with shock. "David! David, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me." I squeezed. Hard. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Okay. Okay, listen to me. You have a breathing tube. I'm going to remove it, but I need you to stay calm. Can you do that? Squeeze once for yes." I squeezed once. She worked quickly, efficiently, the same skilled hands that had shocked my heart back to life now carefully deflating the balloon cuff, telling me to cough as she pulled the tube out. I gagged and coughed and gasped, my throat raw and burning, but finally, I could breathe on my own. "Get me some ice chips," Sarah ordered. And someone page cardiology. "I want a full workup EKG, echo, cardiac enzymes, the works. And get Dr. Patel back in here." The room erupted into controlled chaos. Nurses adjusting monitors. Someone drawing blood. Another person wheeling in a portable ultrasound machine. The machinery of medicine I'd been part of for 17 years now working on me. But I barely noticed any of it. Because I was still there. Still in that garden. Still feeling Jesus' arms around me. Still hearing his voice, "You're mine now. Forever. David." Sarah leaned close, her hand on my shoulder. "You were clinically dead for 12 minutes. 12 minutes. No heartbeat. Flatline on the EKG. Your brain was without oxygen for 12 minutes. Do you understand what I'm saying? By every medical standard, you should be brain dead right now. Or at minimum, you should have severe neurological damage. But you're fine. You're alert. Responsive. Squeezing my hand. Following commands. It's impossible." "Not impossible," I croaked, my voice barely a whisper, my throat feeling like I'd swallowed broken glass. "Jesus." She blinked. "What?" "I saw Jesus," I managed, each word an effort. "I died. I saw him. He sent me back." The room went silent. Every nurse, every doctor, every person within earshot stopped what they were doing and stared at me. Dr. Patel stepped forward, professional concern etched on his face. "David, you've been through massive trauma. Your brain was starved of oxygen. It's completely normal to experience hallucinations." "Not hallucinations," I interrupted, my voice gaining strength despite the pain. "Real. It was real. I left my body. I watched you work on me from the ceiling. That's a common near-death." "There's a coffee stain on the ceiling tile above the gurney," I said, looking directly at him. "Shaped like Florida." "And Maria," I turned my gaze to Nurse Rodriguez. "You asked Dr. Patel, how long's he been down? He said 3 minutes. Maybe 4. You were standing in the corner, arms crossed." Maria's face went white. "How did you? And Kevin?" I found the young resident in the crowd. He was still there, pressed against the wall, looking shell-shocked. "You were crying. You stood against the wall with your hands shaking. You said, 'I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.' You kept saying it. Kevin's mouth fell open. Tears filled his eyes. I did. But you were dead. You couldn't have heard. I wasn't in my body, I said. I was above it. Watching. And then, I took a shaky breath, tears beginning to stream down my face. And then I was in a tunnel. Being pulled down. Into darkness. And a voice said I was his because I denied Jesus. And I was terrified because I knew I was going to hell. But I cried out. I said, Jesus, help me. And he did. He saved me. He showed me heaven. He showed me my life. He told me things, my voice broke. He told me to come back. To tell people. To warn them. That he's real. That heaven is real. That hell is real. That time is running out. The silence in that room was deafening. Sarah's hand was still on my shoulder, but her expression had shifted from medical concern to something else. Something uncertain. Searching. Sarah, I said, looking directly at her. You said, come on, David. Don't you dare die on me. You said it when you injected epinephrine directly into my chest. I watched the needle go in. I felt nothing. But I heard you. Her hand trembled. That's exactly what I said. Word for word. And the clock, I continued. On the wall behind you. It said 10:47 when I flatlined. And there was a yellow wet floor sign in the hallway outside. I saw it when I was leaving my body, floating through the ceiling. And someone had written out of order on the ice machine down the hall. In black Sharpie. Dr. Patel looked at one of the nurses. Check the ice machine. She left. Came back 60 seconds later, her face pale. He's right. Someone wrote out of order on it. In black Sharpie. The room erupted in whispers. This is impossible, Patel said, but his voice lacked conviction. You couldn't have seen those things. You were clinically dead. Exactly, I said. I was dead. But I wasn't gone. My consciousness, my soul, left my body. And I went somewhere. I went to meet Jesus. And he sent me back. Sarah sank into the chair beside my bed, her professional composure cracking. David, you've been an atheist for as long as I've known you. You've argued against God in every philosophical debate we've ever had. You wrote a paper on the neurochemistry of religious experiences. You've spent your entire career explaining away the supernatural. And now you're telling me. I was wrong, I said simply. About all of it. There is a God. Jesus is real. Heaven is real. Hell is real. And Sarah, I'm telling you, I'm begging you, don't wait until you die to find out. Don't make the same mistake I did. Tears filled her eyes. But how do I know you're not just experiencing some kind of oxygen deprivation-induced hallucination? How do I know this is real and not just your brain misfiring? Because I can tell you things I couldn't possibly know, I said. I can tell you that your grandmother, the one who raised you after your parents died, prayed for you every single day. She asked Jesus to watch over you, to guide you, to bring you into relationship with him. And she died believing those prayers would be answered. I know because Jesus showed me. He showed me the prayers that have been prayed for me. And Sarah, your grandmother's prayers are still echoing. Still working. This conversation right now? It's part of the answer. Sarah covered her mouth with her hand, full on crying now. How could you possibly know about my grandmother? Because Jesus showed me. I reached out and took her hand. Sarah, he loves you. He's been pursuing you your whole life. And he sent me back partly so I could tell you that. So you'd know. So you'd have a chance to say yes before it's too late. Before she could respond, the door to the ICU burst open. Jennifer. My wife stood in the doorway, her face streaked with tears, her hair disheveled, still wearing the pajamas she'd thrown on when Sarah had called her. Our pastor, Marcus from the church she attended without me, stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. "David," she screamed, and she actually ran across the ICU to my bedside. "Oh my God, David, they said you were dead," they said. "I was," I said, and I grabbed her hand with what little strength I had. "Jen, I was dead. But Jesus brought me back. And Jen, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. For everything. For 17 years of running. For pushing you away. For building walls. For choosing my pride over our marriage. For missing our daughters' lives. For all of it. I was wrong. About God. About Jesus. About everything. And I'm ready to come back. To you. To our family. To him." Jennifer collapsed onto the bed beside me, sobbing into my chest. I wrapped my arms around her, ignoring the screaming pain from my ribs, from my heart, from the IVs in my arms, and held her. Really held her. For the first time in years. "I never stopped praying," she whispered between sobs. "I never stopped believing God would bring you back. Never." "I know," I said, stroking her hair. "Jesus showed me. He showed me you praying in our bedroom 3 times a week for 10 years. He showed me every tear. He heard every prayer, Jen. Every single one. And he answered them. Tonight, he answered them." Pastor Marcus stepped forward, his eyes wide with wonder. "David, what are you saying? You met Jesus?" "Yes." I looked at him over Jennifer's head. "I died. I left my body. I was being pulled toward hell because I denied him for 17 years. But at the last second, I cried out to him. And he saved me. He brought me into heaven, into this garden that was more real than anything I've ever experienced on earth. And he held me. And he showed me my life. And he told me," my voice broke. "He told me he loved me. That he'd always loved me. That he died for me specifically. That even knowing I'd deny him, he still went to the cross. Because I was worth it to him." Marcus pulled up a chair, tears streaming down his face. "What did he look like?" And I told him. I described Jesus in detail, his Middle Eastern features, his weathered skin, his dark hair and beard. I described his eyes that held galaxies and eternity. I described the scars in his hands, his feet, his side. I described his voice, a thunder and whisper, authority and intimacy. I described the way he'd knelt beside me when I wept. The way he'd held me when I collapsed. He wasn't distant, I said, my own tears flowing freely now. He wasn't cold or religious or judgmental. He was present. He was love. Pure, perfect, overwhelming love. And he told me to come back. To tell my story. To warn people. To tell them he's real, that he's coming back soon, that time is running out. Marcus gripped my hand. "Brother, this is I've been a pastor for 20 years, and I've never heard a testimony like this. From you. The man who argued with me at every church potluck, who challenged everything I said about faith. David, this is a miracle." "It is," I agreed. "And it's not just for me. It's for everyone. For Sarah." I glanced at her, she was still sitting in the chair, crying quietly. "For the nurses here. For my patients. For strangers who'll hear this story. Jesus told me my life is supposed to be a stone thrown into water. The ripples extend forever. Touching people I'll never meet. And I can't waste another second." Jennifer pulled back, looking at me with wonder and joy and lingering fear. "What does this mean? What happens now?" "It means everything changes," I said. "I quit running. I come home, really home. I become the husband I should have been. The father Emma and Grace deserve. I tell my story. I follow Jesus with everything I have for whatever time I have left. And Jen," I cupped her face in my hands. "I love you. I've always loved you. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you that love the way I should have from the beginning. She kissed me then, long and deep and full of 17 years of held back hope. When we finally broke apart, I looked around the room. At Sarah, still processing. At Dr. Patel, skeptical but shaken. At Maria, wide-eyed. At Kevin, crying openly. At the other nurses and residents who'd gathered. I know some of you think I'm crazy, I said. I know this sounds impossible. Brain damage. Hallucinations. Oxygen deprivation. I've used all those explanations myself. But ask yourselves, how did I know things I couldn't possibly have known? How did I see the coffee stain on the ceiling? How did I hear conversations in rooms my body wasn't in? How did I come back after 12 minutes with zero brain damage? Explain that medically. Go ahead. Try. No one spoke. You can't, I continued. Because it wasn't medical. It was supernatural. It was Jesus. And he sent me back to tell you, he's real. He loves you. He died for you. And he's giving you a chance right now, today, to choose him. Don't wait. Don't assume you have time. I'm a cardiologist. I know better than anyone that your next heartbeat isn't guaranteed. Choose today. Choose Jesus. Before it's too late. Sarah stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I need some air, she muttered, and she left the ICU. But Kevin stepped forward. Dr. Mercer, he said, his voice shaking. I'm not a Christian. I mean, I grew up going to church, but I haven't believed in years. I thought it was all, stories. But watching you die tonight, and then come back, and hearing you describe things you couldn't have seen, he wiped his eyes. I want what you have. I want to know Jesus like that. What do I do? My heart nearly burst. You pray, I said. You tell him you believe. You ask him to forgive you. You give him your life. That's it. It's not complicated. He's been waiting for you to ask. Kevin knelt right there, in the middle of the ICU, and he prayed, haltingly at first, then with growing confidence. Jesus, I don't really know how to do this, but Dr. Mercer said you're real. And I believe him. I believe you. I'm sorry for running from you. I'm sorry for not believing. Please forgive me. Please come into my life. I'm yours. When he finished, he looked up at me with wonder on his face. I feel different. Like something inside me just changed. It did, I said, grinning despite the pain in my chest. You just got born again. Welcome to the family, Kevin. Welcome home. Pastor Marcus was crying openly now. This is David, this is revival. This is what the church has been praying for. 2 more nurses stepped forward. Then a resident. Then another nurse. One by one, they prayed. One by one, they gave their lives to Jesus. Right there in the ICU. In the same room where I died. Where Jesus had reached down and pulled me back from hell. 6 people. 6 souls saved. In 30 minutes. And I knew with absolute certainty this was just the beginning. 3 hours later, they moved me to a private room. Jennifer never left my side. She pulled a chair up next to the bed and held my hand, occasionally dozing off but jerking awake every few minutes to make sure I was still there, still breathing, still alive. Around 4 a.m., she whispered, "The girls. I need to tell the girls. They've been so scared." "Call them," I said. "Now. I don't care what time it is. I need to talk to them." She dialed Emma's number. Emma had her own phone now, I remembered with a pang of guilt. My 14-year-old daughter, and I'd missed so much of her growing up. "Mom?" Emma's voice, thick with sleep and fear, came through the speaker. "Is Dad okay? Please tell me he's okay." "He's more than okay, sweetheart," Jennifer said, her voice breaking with joy. "He's awake. He's talking. And he wants to speak to you. She handed me the phone. Emma? I said. Silence. Then a sob. Daddy? Her voice was small, young, the voice of the little girl I'd ignored too many times. Daddy, they said you died. They said. I did die, baby girl, I said gently. But I came back. And Emma, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for missing your birthday parties, for not being there, for choosing work over you. I'm sorry for being distant. For building walls. For not being the dad you deserved. But Emma, that's over now. I'm coming home. And I'm going to be there. For everything. I promise. She was full on sobbing now. I love you, Daddy. I love you so much. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you'll ever know. Now go wake up your sister. I need to talk to her too. A minute later, Grace's sleepy voice came through the speaker. Daddy? Hi, Princess. Daddy, I prayed for you, she said, suddenly wide awake. I prayed every night that your heart wouldn't be sad anymore and that you'd believe in Jesus again. Tears poured down my face. I know, baby. And guess what? Jesus heard every single prayer. And he answered them. He brought me back. And Grace, my heart isn't sad anymore. Because I met Jesus. And he's real. And he told me he heard you praying for me. Every single time. Really? Wonder filled her voice. Jesus told you that? Really? And Grace, because of your prayers, because of Mommy's prayers, I'm coming home. Not just to our house, but to God. To church. To faith. All of it. You helped save me, Princess. You and Jesus together. I'm so happy, Daddy. I can't wait to see you. Soon, baby. Very soon. We talked for another 10 minutes, me and my daughters, really talked, maybe for the first time in years, before Jennifer took the phone back and told them to try to get some sleep. When she hung up, she looked at me with a mixture of joy and exhaustion. I can't believe this is real, she whispered. After 10 years of praying, of hoping, of watching you run further and further away. I'd started to lose hope, David. I'd started to think maybe God wasn't going to answer. And then tonight she broke down again. Tonight he didn't just answer. He gave me a miracle. He gave us both a miracle, I corrected. And Jen, I'm not going to waste it. I don't know how long I have, weeks, months, years, but however much time God gives me, I'm using it for him. All of it. She kissed my hand. I believe you. A nurse came in to check my vitals. When she finished, she paused at the door. Dr. Mercer, she said quietly. I wasn't in the ICU earlier. But I heard what happened. What you said. And I just want you to know. I'm going back to church this Sunday. I walked away from God 5 years ago after my son died. But if he can bring you back after 12 minutes, maybe he hasn't forgotten about me either. He hasn't, I said firmly. He never forgot you. He's been waiting for you to come home. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and left. Jennifer looked at me with wonder. It's already starting. The ripples. Yes, I agreed. And it's never going to stop. They kept me in the hospital for 5 days. 5 days of tests, monitoring, scans, and bewildered cardiologists trying to understand how I was alive, let alone thriving. My cardiac enzymes showed I'd had a massive heart attack. The imaging confirmed significant damage to my left ventricle. By every medical standard, I should have been in heart failure, struggling to walk across the room, facing months of rehab and a lifetime of limitations. But on day 3, I walked the entire cardiac wing without assistance. Without shortness of breath. Without chest pain. This doesn't make sense, Dr. Richardson said, staring at my chart like it had personally offended him. Your heart sustained massive damage. The tissue death is clearly visible on the MRI. But your ejection fraction is normal. Your exercise tolerance is normal. David, you're functioning like someone who never had a heart attack at all. Miracle, I said simply. He looked at me over his reading glasses. I'm a man of science. So am I replied. But science can't explain this. Jesus can. He didn't argue. He just shook his head and walked away. But not everyone walked away. Sarah came to my room on day 4. She knocked softly, even though the door was open, and stood in the doorway like she was afraid to come in. Can we talk? She asked. Of course. I gestured to the chair beside the bed. She sat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her eyes red-rimmed like she hadn't slept in days. I've been thinking about what you said, she began quietly. About your grandmother. About the prayers. About how you knew things you couldn't possibly have known. She looked up at me. David, I've been running from God my whole adult life. After my grandmother died, I threw myself into medicine the same way you did. I thought if I could control life and death, if I could master the human body, I wouldn't need faith. I wouldn't need God. I understand, I said. That's exactly what I did. But watching you die and come back, she wiped her eyes. And then hearing you describe my grandmother's prayers, prayers I never told anyone about, prayers I barely remembered myself, I can't explain that away. I've tried. For 4 days I've tried. And I can't. Sarah, you don't have to explain it away. You just have to accept it. How? Her voice broke. How do I just accept that everything I believed for 20 years is wrong? How do I just surrender control like that? You don't surrender to control, I said gently. You surrender to love. That's what I learned. Jesus isn't waiting to condemn you or control you. He's waiting to love you. To heal you. To give you the peace you've been searching for in all the wrong places. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, will you pray with me? I don't know how to do this. I don't remember the words. There are no magic words, I said, reaching out to take her hand. Just talk to him. Tell him what's in your heart. So Sarah prayed. Haltingly at first, then with growing confidence. She confessed her doubts, her fears, her pride. She asked Jesus to forgive her, to come into her life, to show her the love I described. When she finished, she looked up at me with wonder on her face. I feel lighter, she whispered. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for years and I just put it down. You did, I said, grinning. You've been carrying your own salvation, trying to earn it, trying to control it. And you just gave it to Jesus. He'll carry it from here. She hugged me then, broke protocol, ignored professional boundaries, and cried on my shoulder. 7 souls saved. And counting. They discharged me on day 6. Jennifer pulled the car up to the hospital entrance, and Pastor Marcus helped me into the passenger seat. I was weak more from bed rest than from my heart, but I was alive. Against every odd. Despite 12 minutes of death. Alive. Emma and Grace were waiting at home. When we pulled into the driveway, they burst through the front door and ran to the car. I barely had time to stand before they crashed into me, both of them wrapping their arms around me, sobbing and laughing simultaneously. Daddy! Grace cried. You're really home. I'm really home, princess. I held them both, really held them, the way I should have been holding them for years. And I'm not leaving again. Not for work. Not for anything. I'm here. Emma pulled back slightly, looking up at me with her mother's eyes. Did you really need Jesus, Dad? Really? Really? And Emma, he knows you. He told me he's been watching you, listening to your prayers, waiting for you to fully give your heart to him. He loves you so much. I want to, she said urgently. I want to give my life to him. How do I do it? Right there in the driveway, with Jennifer and Grace and Pastor Marcus gathered around us, Emma prayed. My 14-year-old daughter, with tears streaming down her face, gave her life to Jesus. 8 souls. Grace tugged on my sleeve. Daddy, I already asked Jesus into my heart when I was 7. But I want to do it again. To make sure. Is that okay? Of course it is, baby. I knelt down, my heart protesting but managing, and looked into her eyes. Jesus loves when his children come to him. Over and over. Every day. Grace prayed too. Reaffirming her faith. Dedicating her life to following Jesus with everything she had. Pastor Marcus was openly weeping. David, I've been praying for this day for 10 years. Praying for your salvation. Praying for your family to be whole. And God didn't just answer. He exceeded everything I could have imagined. It's not over, I said, standing with effort. This is just the beginning. Jesus told me to tell my story. To warn people. To reach as many as I can with whatever time I have left. So that's what I'm going to do. In the weeks that followed, I did exactly that. I quit my position at Northwestern Memorial. Not to retire, I was only 41, but to step back, to focus on healing, on family, on the mission Jesus had given me. I called my brother, Thomas, after 8 years of silence. 8 years of estrangement over our mother's inheritance, over stupid family drama I couldn't even remember the details of anymore. 8 years of pride and bitterness. Thomas, it's David, I said when he answered. Silence. Then, David? I died 3 weeks ago. Had a massive heart attack. Was dead for 12 minutes. And when I came back, I realized I'd wasted 8 years being angry at you over things that don't matter. I'm sorry. For all of it. And I want my brother back. He was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Then I heard him crying. I want my brother back too, he choked out. God, David, I've missed you. We talked for 2 hours. We cried. We apologized. We forgave. And we started rebuilding the relationship I'd thrown away. 9 souls? No, but a relationship restored. And Jesus had told me that mattered too. Jennifer and I started going to counseling. Real counseling, with a Christian therapist who helped us navigate 17 years of damage, of walls built brick by brick, of hurts layered upon hurts. It was hard. Brutal, sometimes. I had to face the depth of the pain I'd caused her. The nights she'd cried herself to sleep. The years she'd felt invisible in her own marriage. The moments she'd almost given up. But we fought for it. We fought for us. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, we started healing. 6 months after my death and return, we renewed our vows. In the same church where we'd married 20 years earlier, in front of our daughters and Pastor Marcus and Sarah and Kevin and the nurses from the ICU and everyone whose life had been touched by my story. And when I looked into Jennifer's eyes and said, I choose you. Today and every day until Jesus calls me home, I meant it with every fiber of my being. I started speaking. First at our church, Pastor Marcus asked me to give my testimony during a Sunday service. I was terrified. I'd spent 17 years arguing against God from a position of intellectual superiority, and now I was standing in front of hundreds of people, vulnerable and broken and completely dependent on Jesus. But I told my story. Every detail. The heart attack. The tunnel. The darkness. The voice claiming me. My desperate cry for Jesus. The light. The garden. Jesus himself, his face, his scars, his words. The life review. The warnings. The mission. I spoke for 40 minutes. The church was silent except for occasional weeping. When I finished, Pastor Marcus gave an altar call. 37 people came forward. 37 people in one service gave their lives to Jesus or rededicated their lives to him. I stood at the front, hugging strangers, praying with seekers, weeping with the broken, and I understood what Jesus had meant about ripples. Word spread. Other churches started inviting me to speak. Christian conferences. prayer meetings, youth groups. Then secular venues, medical conferences where doctors wanted to hear the cardiologist who died and come back. University lecture halls where skeptics came to debunk my story but left questioning their atheism. In 1 year, I spoke at 63 events. And in that year, I personally witnessed 847 people give their lives to Jesus. 847 souls. Some were atheists like I'd been as scientists, doctors, intellectuals who'd built their identity on rationalism and couldn't explain away the medical evidence of my story. Some were lukewarm Christians, churchgoers who'd been going through the motions, who heard my description of Jesus' words about knowing him versus knowing about him, and realized they'd never truly surrendered. Some were people of other faiths, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, who heard me describe Jesus as the only way, who felt the Holy Spirit stir in their hearts, who took the risk of abandoning their family's religion to follow the one who died for them. Some were broken people, addicts, abuse survivors, the suicidal, the hopeless, who heard that Jesus loved them specifically, personally, desperately, and decided to give him a chance. Every single one of them changed my life as much as I changed theirs. But it wasn't easy. I lost friends. Colleagues from the hospital who thought I'd had a psychotic break, who whispered about brain damage and religious delusion. I lost professional opportunities. I'd been on track to become chief of cardiology. That door closed permanently when I quit to focus on ministry. I lost money. Speaking at churches doesn't pay like cardiac surgery. We sold our house in Evanston, downsized to a modest home, learned to live on a fraction of what we'd had before. And I lost respect in certain circles. Articles were written about me in medical journals, case studies analyzing my oxygen deprivation-induced hallucination. Atheist websites featured me as an example of how even intelligent people can be deluded by near-death experiences. But I didn't care. Because I'd seen Jesus. I'd felt his embrace. I'd heard his voice. I'd been given a mission. And nothing mattered more than fulfilling it. Now, sitting here today, 2 years after my death and return, I want to speak directly to you. Yes, you. The person reading this, watching this, hearing this story. To the atheists and skeptics, I was you. For 17 years, I was you. I had medical training. I understood neurochemistry, oxygen deprivation, hallucinations. I'd written papers explaining away religious experiences. I'd mocked believers. I'd argued passionately that death was the end, that consciousness was purely biological, that faith was weakness. And I was wrong. Completely, utterly, devastatingly wrong. I'm not asking you to take my word for it based on faith. I'm asking you to look at the evidence. How did I see things from the ceiling while clinically dead? How did I describe conversations in rooms my body wasn't in? How did I return after 12 minutes of death with 0 brain damage? How did I know about Sarah's grandmother's prayers? About the coffee stain on the ceiling tile? About the out-of-order sign on the ice machine? Explain it. Use science. Use logic. Go ahead. You can't. Because it wasn't natural. It was supernatural. It was Jesus. And he's real. Heaven is real. Hell is real. And you will die someday, maybe today, maybe in 50 years, and you will stand before him. What will you say when he asks why you denied his existence? When he shows you all the evidence he put in your path? All the people who tried to tell you? All the moments he called to your heart and you said no? Don't wait until it's too late. Don't make the mistake I almost made. To the Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and those of other faiths, I respect you. I respect your sincerity, your devotion, your search for truth. But I'm telling you, I met Jesus. Not as a prophet. Not as one enlightened master among many. As God. As the Savior. As the one who died specifically for you. He showed me his scars. The nail wounds. The spear wound. He kept them intentionally, not as reminders of his suffering, but as proof of his love for you. He told me, explicitly, that he is the way. Not a way. That no one comes to the Father except through him. I know that's offensive to pluralistic thinking. I know it sounds exclusive. But it's true. And I'd rather offend you with the truth and see you in heaven than comfort you with a lie and lose you to hell. Jesus loves you. He's calling you. He wants relationship with you, not religious rituals, not good works, not spiritual enlightenment. Him. Personally. Intimately. Will you answer? To the lukewarm Christians, this is going to be hard to hear, but you need to hear it. Jesus told me that most people who call themselves Christians don't actually know him. They know about him. They go to church. They pray before meals. They believe intellectually that he exists. But their hearts are cold. Distracted. They're living for themselves, for comfort, for the world, with a thin veneer of Christianity on top. And Jesus is coming back soon. Sooner than you think. And when he does, he's not looking for church attendance records. He's not looking for people who prayed a prayer once as a child and never thought about him again. He's looking for people who know him. Who have relationship with him. Who love him passionately, serve him sacrificially, follow him daily. Are you one of those people? If Jesus came back today, would you be ready? If there's even a moment of hesitation in your answer, then you need to get on your knees right now and surrender. Fully. Completely. No more playing games. No more lukewarm faith. All in. All of you. All for him. To everyone, here's what I need you to understand: you're going to die. Maybe not today. Maybe not this year. But someday, and you don't know when, your heart will stop. Your brain will shut down. Your consciousness will leave your body. And then what? Then you go somewhere. Heaven or hell. Eternal life with Jesus or eternal separation from him. Those are the only two options. There is no third choice. There is no reincarnation. There is no soul sleep. There is no annihilation. You will continue to exist. Forever. Somewhere. And the choice of where is made here. Now. Today. In this life. You choose Jesus, or you choose hell. Those are the options. I know that sounds harsh. I know it sounds intolerant. But it's the truth. And I love you too much to lie to you about it. So I'm begging you, choose Jesus. Choose him today. Right now. Don't wait. Don't assume you have time. Don't assume you'll get another chance. I died suddenly. No warning. No time to prepare. One moment I was finishing hospital rounds. The next moment I was flatlined on a gurney. If I hadn't cried out to Jesus in that final second, I would be in hell right now. For eternity. Don't let that be your story. Here's what you do: pray. Right now. Out loud or silently, Jesus hears either way. Tell him you believe he's real. That he died for your sins. That he rose from the dead. Tell him you're sorry for running from him, for denying him, for living your own way instead of his. Ask him to forgive you. To save you. To come into your life. Give him control. All of it. Your past. Your present. Your future. Your dreams. Your plans. Your life. That's it. That's all it takes. Let me pray with you. Jesus, I believe you're real. I believe you died on the cross for my sins and rose from the dead 3 days later. I'm sorry for running from you, for denying you, for living my own way instead of yours. Please forgive me. Please save me. Please come into my life. I give you control of everything, my past, my present, my future. I'm yours. From this moment forward, I'm yours. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for dying for me. Thank you for giving me eternal life. In your name I pray. Amen. If you prayed that prayer and meant it, then congratulations. You just made the most important decision of your life. You just secured your eternal destiny. You just became a child of God. Welcome to the family. Welcome home. I don't know how much longer I have. The doctors say my heart is functioning normally, but the damage is still visible. They say I could live another 40 years, or I could have another heart attack tomorrow. They don't know. But I'm not afraid. I've seen what's waiting for me. I've stood in that garden. I've felt Jesus' embrace. I've heard him say, "When your work is done, I'll be right here waiting." So I'm going to use every moment I have left. Every breath. Every heartbeat. Every opportunity. I'm going to love Jennifer with the passion and devotion she deserved all along. I'm going to be present for Emma and Grace, watching them grow, celebrating their victories, guiding them through struggles, pointing them always toward Jesus. I'm going to tell my story to anyone who'll listen. In churches and conferences and coffee shops and hospital rooms. To believers and skeptics and seekers and the broken. I'm going to make every moment count. Because I've seen eternity. And compared to that, nothing else matters. Nothing except Jesus. Nothing except souls. Nothing except fulfilling the mission He gave me when He sent me back. If this story has impacted you, if you prayed that prayer, if you made a decision for Jesus, please don't stop here. Find a church. A real one, where they preach the Bible and love Jesus passionately. Get plugged in. Get baptized. Start reading Scripture. Start praying daily. Start building relationship with the God who died for you. And tell someone. Tell your story. Tell what Jesus did for you. Because your story, your testimony, might be the thing that reaches someone I never could. That's how this works. That's how the ripples spread. I was one stone thrown into water. But every person who's been saved through my story is another stone. And every person they reach is another stone. And on, ripple after ripple, until Jesus comes back. And He's coming soon. I don't know the day or the hour. But I know it's soon. I felt the urgency in His voice when He told me. I saw the longing in His eyes when He described wanting His children home. He's coming. And when He does, I want to hear Him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." I want Him to show me all the ripples. All the souls that were saved because I said yes. Because I told my story. Because I followed Him with everything I had. And I want you there with me. Standing in that garden. Feeling that impossible love. Seeing those colors that don't exist on earth. Hearing creation sing. I want all of us, everyone who reads this, everyone who hears this, to be there together. So please. Choose Jesus. Choose life. Choose eternity with the one who loves you more than you'll ever comprehend. Do it today. Do it now. Because today is the only day you're guaranteed. And I promise you, it will be the best decision you ever make.